Everyone knows that Trista and Justin are a notoriously crazy couple. One is ruthless, the other is insane. Those she dislikes, he personally crushes. If anyone so much as touches a single hair on her head, he would even dare to stake his life on the gambling table. Trista had always firmly believed that they were destined to be entangled for a lifetime, sharing the same quilt in life and the same grave in death, until that mute flower girl named Sophia, like an unexpected gust of wind, quietly slipped into their airtight world. She neither fought nor contended, yet every time Justin cleared obstacles for Trista, she would hand him a bouquet of roses she had arranged herself, along with a gentle smile. Just like that, bit by bit, she made Justin fall completely for her. On the 10th time she received photos of the two kissing, Trista didn't throw things in a rage as she usually did. She only had someone invite Sophia to the villa. Trista lazily sank into the sofa, swirling her glass of red wine, her gaze lightly falling on the person kneeling on the floor. You should know that no one who gets involved with Justin ends up well. Sophia, with reddened eyes, she frantically gestured in sign language. The sign language interpreter beside her whispered a translation. She says, "She and Mr. Justin are just friends." Friends? Trista curled her crimson lips into a smirk, then suddenly raised her hand and smashed the wine glass at her feet, sending shards and liquid splattering everywhere. "You're not worthy." Sophia trembled in fear. Trista rose coldly. "Guards, drag her out and make her understand that not just anyone is qualified to be friends with Justin." Before the words had even faded, the door was violently kicked open with a bang. Justin stood at the doorway in a black trench coat, his face terrifyingly dark. Without even glancing at Trista, he walked straight over to Sophia, took off his coat to wrap around her trembling body, and said gently, "It's all right, don't be afraid, I'm taking you home." With that, he picked her up and walked out. Trista's eyes instantly burned crimson as she grabbed an ashtray and hurled it fiercely. "Justin, how dare you take her away?" The man didn't stop walking. She rushed forward like a madwoman, yanking Sophia out of his arms. "If you dare take this bitch out that door today, tomorrow you'll see her body hanging at the entrance of your company." Justin finally turned around. In his eyes, there was no trace of the former indulgence, only an unquestionable ruthlessness. "You can certainly try." After saying that, he held Sophia and left without looking back. Trista watched his retreating figure, clenched her fists, then suddenly let out a low laugh, her eyes bloodshot. The next morning, she directly had someone smash Sophia's flower shop, beat her half to death, and dumped her at the entrance of Justin's company. Watching the video sent by her subordinate, Trista showed no expression on her face. She just wanted to see Justin, how far he would go crazy for that woman. That night, the door was kicked open with a violent force. Trista hadn't even regained her senses when a large hand fiercely grabbed her neck, lifting her almost completely off the ground. A suffocating feeling washed over her, yet she looked into his bloodshot eyes and laughed. "I keep my word." Bang! A loud crash. Justin violently threw her aside, and she landed heavily on the ground. Her internal organs seemed to shift instantly. A metallic sweetness surged up her throat, and with a phut sound, Trista spat out a large mouthful of blood. She bit her lip hard without making a sound, her crimson eyes stubbornly fixed on Justin. Why did he fall in love with her? Justin approached with a gloomy face, grabbed her and lifted her up, then suddenly lowered his head and kissed her. Trista was taken aback for a moment, then she held him tightly and responded with wild intensity. Justin fiercely sucked the blood from her lips, dragged her into the bathroom, and pulled her hair, forcing her to look into the mirror. "Trista, look at us now. Isn't it disgusting?" In the mirror, her face was deathly pale, her lips stained with blood, and her eyes were filled with madness. "Justin," he cupped her face, pressing his forehead against hers, his voice hoarse. "Trista, it's been 5 years, we need to move on. I've been crazy with you for 5 years. If it weren't for Sophia showing up, I would have almost forgotten what I used to be like." Trista stiffened all over. "Have you really fallen for her?" "Yes," he answered without hesitation. "I've fallen for her. She's a lot like how you used to be, beautiful, gentle, with smiling eyes, and a pair of—" "Shut up. Justin, you shut up," Trista suddenly screamed, interrupting him while pounding his chest with tear-streaked face. "I forbid it. I forbid you to fall in love with her." Justin remained motionless, letting her vent, his voice filled with exhaustion. "Trista, I'm tired. That day I was in a daze, standing on the rooftop, just wanting to end it all. It was Sophia who ran over and grabbed me. She didn't say anything, just smiled at me. And in that moment, I felt like the sky had finally brightened. These 5 years. Every minute and every second I've been with you, I've been thinking about how to end myself. Stop talking. I told you to stop talking. Trista screamed uncontrollably, slapping him hard across the face. Justin, his eyes darkened. But in the end, he just looked at her calmly. Trista, I won't divorce you. But I won't love you anymore, nor will I indulge your madness with you. This time, you targeted Sophia, and I'll let it slide. But if there's a next time, I won't spare you. Trista suddenly collapsed to the ground, her heart-wrenching sobs tearing through the air. Meanwhile, Justin's eyes held not a trace of the tenderness they once did, and he turned away without hesitation. No, Justin, don't leave me. She crawled toward him, desperately clutching the hem of his pants, her voice filled with humility and pleading. I beg you, don't love her, don't leave me. Okay, you're the only one I have left. Justin, you're all I have. Justin turned to look at her. His eyes cold. Trista, I can't not love her. We should both live our own lives. In these 5 years, I've done everything I possibly could. With that, he flung her away violently. The hem of his trench coat cut a sharp arc through the air, leaving only emptiness in the room. Trista stared in the direction he had disappeared, her eyes bloodshot, screaming hoarsely with all her strength. Liar, you said you would love me forever. Justin, you liar. 5 years ago. They were still considered the perfect golden couple, but on the eve of their wedding, the Kane family was framed, collapsing overnight. After sending her and her younger brother abroad, her parents held hands and jumped from a tall building. She tearfully settled her brother and returned to the country alone, unexpectedly. As soon as she got off the plane, she was abducted and locked in that pitch-black basement, tortured for a full 15 days, until Justin descended like a god, pulling her out of hell. From that day on, the gentle and radiant Trista was dead, and what survived was a complete madwoman. The Hubbury family viewed her as a disgrace and wanted to permanently commit her to a mental institution. It was Justin who threatened with his life, standing in front of all the clan members. We are already married. For as long as she is my wife for a day, she will be my wife for life. I will protect her for the rest of my life. Since you cannot accept her, from now on, I, Justin, will take her far away from the Hubbury family and never set foot here again. But in less than 5 years, he grew tired. He abandoned her. Trista cried herself into unconsciousness in the bathroom, woke up, and repeated the cycle, muddling through the night in a daze. After daybreak, she struggled to get up. Put on her most exquisite dress, used makeup to conceal all traces of her distress, and went straight to the hospital. Finding Sophia's hospital room, she ignored the fear in the other's eyes and coldly handed over a card. There are 30 million in here. Leave Justin. Sophia burst into tears instantly, her hands flailing in panic. Trista remained expressionless. I don't understand. Sophia hurriedly took out her phone to type, then handed it to her with reddened eyes. MS. Trista, Mr. Justin and I are completely innocent. I would never come between you two. Innocent. Trista scoffed coldly, throwing those intimate photos in front of her. Then what are these? Sophia, I've seen all kinds of demons and monsters since I was young. A green tea bitch like you, I've encountered plenty. Right now I'm giving you friendly advice. Take the money and get lost while you still can. Otherwise, a flash of murderous intent crossed her eyes. Don't blame me for being ruthless. With that, she shook off her hand in disgust, as if she had touched something filthy. Sophia huddled in the corner, her tears falling even harder as she trembled and typed again. MS. Trista, I knew Mr. Justin was married and rejected him from the start. These photos, he forced me into them. I never initiated anything. Those words instantly ignited Trista's fury. Her eyes suddenly turned bloodshot, and she slapped him hard. I'm asking you one last time, are you going to get lost or not? Sophia shook her head desperately, tears in her eyes. Guards. Trista suddenly stood up and coldly ordered the bodyguard, tie her up and beat her until she nods. After saying that, she turned and left, completely shutting out the heart-wrenching cries behind her. Back in that cold home, Trista curled up on the sofa, her eyes vacant as if her soul had been drained away. After an unknown amount of time, her phone rang. A message came from her bodyguard. Madam. Something terrible has happened, Ms. Sophia. She was pregnant and was beaten until she miscarried. Boom. Trista, her mind exploded. Pregnant. Once, she had so desperately wanted a child, but he had brushed her off every time. But now, he had actually gotten another woman pregnant with his child. Bang! The door was violently kicked open. Trista instinctively looked up, her gaze directly meeting Justin's bloodshot, predatory eyes. The two stared at each other for a full 10 seconds. The air heavy as if frozen solid. Suddenly, Justin charged forward and shoved her into the couch. The tremendous impact sent a sharp pain through her spine. The next second, a rough hand grabbed her clothes and ripped them apart. His ferocious appearance was completely different from the gentle husband he used to be. Trista snapped back to reality, her eyes instantly reddening as she struggled desperately with both hands and feet. "What are you doing, Justin? Let go of me." The man not only didn't stop, but instead leaned down and used his tie to tightly bind her wrists. Certain dark memory fragments suddenly flooded into her mind. Trista began trembling uncontrollably, crying and twisting her body, her voice filled with utter despair. "Get away, Justin, get away from me. This is assault." Justin pinned her thrashing legs firmly with his knees, and in the next second, he thrust into her violently. His eyes churned with an unyielding mix of brutality and destructive desire. Breathing heavily, he whispered the cruelest words into her ear. "You've already been passed around by so many men. Why are you still pretending to be some chaste and virtuous woman?" Those words, like an ice pick dipped in poison, instantly pierced Trista's heart. She stood frozen in place, her crimson eyes filled with an almost shattered disbelief. What did you say?" The moment the words left his mouth, Justin regretted it, but the thought of that unborn child, of her frenzied retaliation, instantly consumed his regret in a blaze of fury. He sneered coldly, his movements growing even more brutal, each word cutting like a blade. "Did I say something wrong? Those 15 days, dare you say you weren't?" Shut up." Trista suddenly lost control, raising her hand to strike Justin across the face, tears instantly bursting forth like a dam. "I hate you, Justin, I hate you to death." He actually used that 15-day nightmare to hurt her. That was the filthiest, most painful scar in her heart. Yet he personally tore it open, using the sharpest knife to stab repeatedly at her most vulnerable spot. "Hate me?" Justin, his eyes flared crimson as he grabbed her swinging hand. "Trista, search your conscience and tell me, if I hadn't taken you in back then, who else would have wanted a worn-out shoe that's been passed around?" These words, like a venom-tipped ice pick, plunged deep into Trista's heart. She covered her face and sobbed, tears streaming uncontrollably through her fingers. Hearing her broken sobs, Justin felt a sharp pang in his heart, as if pricked by needles, spreading a fine, dense ache. But the pain was fleeting, suppressed into the coldness that filled his eyes. He leaned down and fiercely captured her lips in a kiss, his movements carrying a punishing roughness, stifling all her sobs in her throat. "Trista, even a dog knows gratitude. Why can't you tolerate Sophia?" The taste of blood and tears mingled between his lips and teeth. "I never said I was leaving you, nor did I say I wanted a divorce. Why are you forcing me like this? Trista, you must pay the price for what happened to the child." He covered her mouth and forcibly completed the act in the most humiliating way. After it was over, he pulled away without a hint of hesitation, as if discarding a piece of trash covered in dust. In the following days, Justin came to her room every night. Each time, he took no precautions, possessing her in a manner close to torment. There was not a trace of gentleness in his actions, only the violence of release. After it was over, he never lingered, turning to leave immediately. A month later, Trista received the pregnancy test report at the hospital. She stood at the hospital entrance, a faint, pathetic glimmer of joy stirring in her heart. Perhaps, with this child, things between her and Justin would be different. But this joy had not yet warmed up before it was completely crushed by the chilling cold that came head-on. Justin appeared with a group of bodyguards, blocking the hospital entrance, his gaze piercingly cold. "Tie the madam up. Take her back to the basement at home, and beat her until she miscarries." The bodyguards immediately stepped forward, seizing Trista's arms from both sides. Trista, her eyes instantly turned bloodshot as she struggled and screamed. "Justin, didn't you want a child? Sophia's child is gone. But I'm now carrying your child in my womb. This is also your flesh and blood. Justin, a cruel coldness curled at the corner of his mouth as he stepped closer. "Do you think I've been preventing you from getting pregnant all these years for no reason?" Trista, her entire body stiffened, as if struck by a paralysis spell, unable to move. His next words, each one like an ice spike, nailed her completely to the pillar of shame. "Because you are too filthy. So filthy that you are not even qualified to bear an heir for the Hubbury family." Trista felt her entire body turn cold, but Justin had no intention of letting her off. Continuing to torture her dignity with the cruelest words, "Trista, I know you are the victim, but do you know, every time I touch you, I have to endure overwhelming disgust and wash my body repeatedly in the bathroom. That torment is something you will never understand, but it was different when I touched Sophia. She was pure, giving all her firsts to me, shy and inexperienced. That's the feeling I truly wanted." After saying this, he no longer looked at Trista's blood-red, tear-filled eyes. He turned away indifferently, leaving only one final command: "Remember, don't stop until it's gone." Trista did not struggle anymore. She was like a puppet that had lost its soul, allowing the bodyguard to tie her to the stool. As the heavy club fell on her abdomen again and again, and intense pain washed over her, the flashbacks in her mind were all of Justin's gentle whispers. "Trista, this isn't your fault. Why are you punishing yourself like this? Trista, follow me. It won't be too hard. Trista, don't be afraid. You need to learn to enjoy it. Trista, I will stay with you for a lifetime and take good care of you." All the sweetness and promises of the past now turned into the sharpest boomerangs, piercing deeply into her already scarred heart. The pain grew increasingly intense. Her consciousness gradually blurred, and she could clearly feel the warm liquid flowing from her lower body. It was her child, slowly leaving her. I don't know how much time had passed before the bodyguard, noticing her weak breathing, finally stopped and took her to the emergency room. When they reached the hospital lobby, Trista's blurry vision happened to catch sight of Justin carefully supporting Sophia as they walked out. Sophia leaned against his chest, a fragile smile on her face, while Justin looked down at her, his eyes filled with tenderness as he spoke. As the two passed by her, their footsteps didn't pause for even a moment. When she woke up again, Trista, there was only a deathly crimson stillness in her eyes. She grabbed the phone from her bedside table and, with trembling hands, dialed her younger brother who was abroad. The moment the call connected, she was unusually calm. "Galen, get me a few of the fake death pills your lab developed. The sooner the better. Justin, in this world, anyone can deceive me, anyone can hurt me, but not you. I want you to watch me die with your own eyes. I want you to live in eternal regret, never finding peace for the rest of your life." In the following days, Trista did not take the initiative to contact Justin. Justin did not return to the villa either. By the time the fake death pills arrived, it was already 3 days later. Inside the box lay 3 white pills, with the medical instructions clearly written: "Take 1 pill per day. After taking the final pill, it will create the illusion of vomiting blood and dying." Realistic enough to deceive anyone, she picked up the first pill and swallowed it without hesitation. The dry, scratchy sensation of the pill sliding down her throat hadn't even faded when a voice, so familiar it made her heart tremble, suddenly came from behind. "What are you taking?" Trista froze for a moment, then quickly clenched the remaining 2 pills tightly in her palm. Justin's gaze fell on her excessively pale face. He paused briefly, then composed his expression. "There's a banquet tonight. Come with me." Trista nodded expressionlessly. All right. Justin was instead stunned. Before coming, he had long prepared himself to deal with her crying, screaming, even confronting him with a knife. But now, she was terrifyingly calm, so calm that it inexplicably unsettled him. His thin lips moved slightly as if he wanted to say more. Trista spoke first, her voice cold as ice. "Anything else?" Justin swallowed hard, but ultimately only said, "Nothing else." Trista didn't look at him again, stepping around him and heading straight downstairs. From beginning to end, not a trace of anger showed on her face. Justin watched her retreating figure, his brow furrowing even more tightly, but before he could ponder further, his phone suddenly rang in his pocket. Seeing the name on the screen, the gloom in his heart instantly dissipated, leaving only tenderness behind. After finishing the call, Justin strode downstairs, passing through the living room. He saw Trista sitting on the sofa flipping through a magazine. He still paused his steps and tossed out a sentence, "I'm heading out first." My assistant will pick you up and take you to the venue tonight." Without waiting for Trista to respond, the man had already disappeared through the doorway. At 7 p.m., Trista arrived at the banquet venue in a car driven by Justin's assistant. The car door opened, and the moment she stepped out, all eyes in the banquet hall turned toward her like spotlights. In those gazes, there were looks of fear, disdain, contempt, and even undisguised disgust. After all, her reputation as a madwoman had long been circulating in the Beijing social circle, but she seemed oblivious to those gazes, took a glass of wine, and then found a sofa in the corner to sit down, leisurely sipping her drink. Seeing her like this, the people around breathed a sigh of relief, then began whispering among themselves, their voices neither too loud nor too soft. Just enough for Trista to hear. "Why haven't we seen Mr. Justin in the past, at occasions like this? Didn't the two of them always walk in arm? Your information is way behind. It's been spreading in the circle for a while now. Mr. Justin only has eyes for that florist girl named Sophia now, and he's long stopped paying any attention to Trista." "Really, that's fantastic. As long as Mr. Justin doesn't love her, Trista, that devil, will lose her backing and won't be able to bully people so freely anymore." Amid the excited chatter, Trista's fingers holding the wine glass didn't move an inch, only the light in her eyes grew colder. Just then, a commotion arose at the entrance. Trista looked up and saw Justin entering the venue hand in hand with Sophia, both wearing nearly identical faint smiles. A flicker of pain, faint and fleeting, passed through her eyes before being frozen over. The crowd instinctively parted, their gazes darting among the three, eagerly anticipating the drama about to unfold. Justin saw Trista sitting in the corner and instinctively tightened his grip on Sophia's hand, leading her toward Trista. His tone carried a hint of warning. "I was the one who insisted on bringing Sophia. Don't cause trouble for her." Sophia quickly raised her hand, wanting to explain through sign language. But as soon as she lifted her hand, she remembered that Trista couldn't understand sign language, so she lowered her head and tried to take out her phone from her bag to type. Justin, however, took her hand first, looked up at Trista, and said in a softer tone, "Sophia says she just wanted to come and see the world. Hoping you wouldn't mind." Trista tightened her fingers around the wine glass, but soon sneered and looked at Sophia. "Ms. Sophia means that you're attending this banquet as my husband's female companion, and you expect me, the legitimate Mrs. Sai, not to mind." Sophia's eyes suddenly reddened as she looked helplessly at Justin, letting out rapid R sounds. Justin immediately patted the back of her hand and comforted her softly. "Sophia, don't be afraid, I'm here." Trista dug her nails deep into her palm, her sneer growing more pronounced. "Ms. Sophia, I'd like to ask you, a mute who can't even speak. Do you actually dream of taking my place as Mrs. Sai?" Sophia, her eyes reddened even more as she shook her head desperately. Trista, but it was as if she hadn't seen her tears, and continued, "Shaking your head means you admit you don't mean it. Then why do you keep following Justin? Didn't you say last time that you and he are just ordinary friends? But how come I heard that you're already pregnant with his child?" She glanced at Justin, her tone full of sarcasm. "Is your so-called friendship just chatting under the covers? Or is it that Justin forced you? In that case, should I call the police for you and let them decide what's fair?" "Trista, shut your mouth." Justin finally spoke up to interrupt her, raising his hand and slapping Trista across the face, with a sharp smack. Trista's cheek instantly turned red and swollen. Justin's voice was like ice. "If you say one more word of nonsense, I won't mind replacing the position of Mrs. Sai right now." Trista's face was slapped to the side. After a long moment, she slowly turned her head back to look at Justin, suddenly letting out a low chuckle, but her eyes were bloodshot. "Fine, then let's go get a divorce right now." Justin's pupils abruptly contracted. He had always been certain that in this vast Beijing social circle, only he, Justin, would want her, certain that she loved him to the bone, couldn't live without him, and would never let go. But now, she had nonchalantly uttered the word divorce. Justin's face grew increasingly gloomy. He stared fixedly at Trista for a long moment before squeezing out two words through gritted teeth. "Madman." After saying that, he didn't spare Trista another glance, turned around, and left, pulling Sophia along with him. The surrounding laughter instantly erupted into an uproar, the gazes piercing like needles on Trista, yet she acted as if she hadn't heard or seen anything. still sitting on the sofa, slowly sipping the wine in her glass. For the rest of the time, Trista remained seated in that corner, not moving, and didn't speak a word to anyone. It wasn't until the banquet ended that she finally stood up and went to the restroom. Who would have thought that as soon as she came out and reached the door, she was blocked by Sophia? Trista frowned, completely ignoring her, and tried to walk past, but just as she brushed past, Sophia suddenly spoke. "Ms. Trista, how does it feel to have your own husband personally take your child away? Not pleasant, is it?" Trista halted in her tracks, whirled around, and stared at her in disbelief. "You can speak." Sophia, the fragile expression on her face vanished instantly, a sickeningly sweet smile curling at the corners of her lips. "If I didn't pretend to be mute, Justin, how would he feel sorry for me? How would he even spare me a second glance?" Trista, her eyes turned to ice, a cold sneer slowly spreading across her lips. "You're quite the schemer, but Justin hates deception more than anything. Aren't you afraid he'll kill you with his own hands when he finds out?" "Afraid? Of course I'm afraid." Sophia drew out her words, her eyes brimming with smugness. "But he clings to me every night, desperate to die on me, and even begs me to bear his child. Once I actually give birth to the Hubbury family's child, do you think he'll care about this little deception? He'll only dote on me more, spoil me even more. After all, he loves nothing more than the sound of my moans." Every word pierced Trista's heart like a poisoned needle. Her expression darkened abruptly, but as she looked at the other's deliberately innocent appearance, an extremely cold curve instead formed at the corner of her lips. "Justin could even deceive me. Back then, he held me and said he would love me forever, that he would protect me. But what happened in the end? Do you really think he would give his sincere heart for a lifetime to a woman like me, who is full of lies?" "Ms. Trista, you've got it wrong." Sophia shook her head, her voice as light as a feather, yet each word pierced the heart. "I am clean and pure. I gave him my first time, and you." She deliberately paused, a malicious glint surging in her eyes. "Back then, when you were abducted and spent 15 days in that pitch-black place, what kind of filthy things happened there? You know better than anyone, don't you?" Trista lost all color in her face, her lips turning deathly pale. "Shall I take a guess?" Sophia blinked, feigning complete innocence in her tone. "During those 15 days, Ms. Trista, it wasn't just beatings, was it? Those men, did they do something even more disgusting to you?" Slap. A slap harshly interrupted her words. Trista's chest heaved violently, flames blazing in her eyes. "Sophia, if you dare say one more word, I'll kill you right now." "Trista, what are you doing?" Justin's icy voice suddenly came from not far away. He strode over, his gaze falling upon Sophia's swollen red cheek, his face instantly darkening. "I warned you not to lay a hand on her. How dare you still hit her?" Trista glared at him with bloodshot eyes, her voice trembling. "It was her. She insulted me first. She's not mute at all. She's been deceiving you all along." Justin paused, his brow instantly clouded with disgust. "Have you lost your mind?" Sophia was born unable to speak. "How could she possibly insult you? Stop spouting such nonsense here. She will. She just said so herself." Trista suddenly lunged forward, grabbing Sophia's chin. "Sophia, weren't you just cursing with such enthusiasm? Why are you mute now? Speak." Sophia teared up, frantically casting a pleading look at Justin, but with her chin gripped tightly by Trista, she couldn't even move her head. "Speak. Why aren't you saying anything?" Trista, her voice suddenly rose sharply, madness flashing in her eyes as she suddenly punched the mirror beside her. Boom. The mirror shattered with a crash, fragments flying everywhere. Ignoring the blood gushing from her fingers, she grabbed a sharp piece of glass and pressed it firmly against Sophia's lips. "Say it, repeat what you just said. Weren't you so eloquent? Why is it that now that Justin is here, you don't dare speak?" The glass instantly sliced through Sophia's tender lips, and blood gushed out. Sophia's face turned deathly pale, and a faint sound escaped her throat. Justin's pupils constricted sharply. He rushed forward and tightly grabbed Trista's wrist, roaring in fury. "Trista, let her go right now. Are you trying to kill her?" Trista, however, struggled as if completely insane. She paid no mind to the red marks left on her wrist, staring fixedly at Sophia. "Speak. Why aren't you saying anything? If you really can't speak, then swallow this glass. Go on, swallow it. If you want to prove you're mute, then swallow it." Sophia burst into tears, looking at Justin's worried eyes, then suddenly opened her mouth and firmly clamped down on the blood-stained glass shard. Blood instantly gushed from the corner of her mouth as she made a motion to swallow it. Sophia, Justin's voice was full of panic as he abruptly shook off Trista's hand, tightly shielding Sophia in his arms. Trembling, he reached out to pick the glass from her mouth. Justin's fingertips were cut and bleeding from the glass, yet he seemed to feel no pain, only coaxing her carefully. Sophia, be good, open your mouth and spit out the glass. Sophia with tears in her eyes. She gently opened her mouth, and the blood-stained shard of glass was finally removed. She immediately threw herself into Justin's arms, like a frightened little rabbit, crying as if her heart would break. Meanwhile, Trista, who had been shoved aside harshly by Justin moments before, stumbled backward and fell onto the shards of glass covering the floor. The sharp fragments pierced her palms, arms, and back. The excruciating pain jolted her awake instantly. Yet she could only stare blankly at the two figures locked in an embrace. She never expected that Sophia would actually dare to swallow glass. She stared blankly at Sophia, as if unable to believe that she really dared to swallow that piece of glass. Good girl, it's all right now. Justin patted Sophia's back to comfort her, but his gaze suddenly turned to Trista on the ground, his face showing unprecedented coldness and anger as he sharply ordered the bodyguards at the door. Hold her down for me. Two bodyguards stepped forward in response, pinning Trista firmly onto the broken glass. The glass shards dug deeper into her flesh, blood spreading across the tiles. Justin, with bloodshot eyes, walked step by step toward Trista. With every step he took, Trista's heart skipped a beat, and a strong sense of unease suddenly rose within her. Sure enough, the next moment, Justin grabbed a handful of broken glass, letting the sharp edges cut into his palm, and suddenly gripped her chin. Trista's eyes instantly turned crimson as she shook her head and struggled desperately. But Justin not only didn't let go, but instead increased his grip. With a crisp crack, Trista's jaw was forcibly dislocated by him. Intense pain darkened her vision. Tears uncontrollably streaming out, she stared in disbelief at Justin, her eyes so red they seemed about to drip blood. This man, who once vowed to protect her for a lifetime, was now inflicting such cruelty upon her for the sake of another woman. Justin's eyes held not a trace of warmth as he shoved a handful of broken glass into her mouth, pressed her jaw shut, and even deliberately twisted it with force. Trista was convulsing in pain, blood continuously streaming down from the corner of her mouth. Shards sliced her lips and pierced the tip of her tongue, each movement driving the pain deep into her bones. It wasn't until Trista's tongue was nearly shredded and her breath was choked with bloody foam that Justin finally released her and stood up. Trista, from now on, I will no longer indulge you. After saying this, he turned around, picked up the still sobbing Sophia, and left the bathroom without looking back. The guests watching the show at the door instantly grew restless. Did Mr. Justin just say he won't indulge Trista anymore? Right, does that mean we don't have to be afraid of her anymore? Or even, teach her a lesson? Once someone spoke up, others immediately took action. A woman in an ornate gown stepped forward and viciously kicked the Trista lying on the ground. Demon, I finally caught my chance. I always said those who do evil will never come to a good end. Seeing someone take the lead, the others quickly gathered around, punching and kicking the blood-soaked Trista on the ground. They had feared Trista before because Justin protected her. But now that Justin had clearly stated he would no longer indulge her, their long-suppressed fear instantly turned into malice. Spit, a lowlife like you should have died sooner. Demons belong in hell. Why come out to harm others? When you were taken away for those 15 days, you deserved it. Trista curled up in the pool of blood, letting the punches and kicks fall like rain, until Trista's breathing grew increasingly weak and she was on the verge of death. Those people finally stopped. After a while, someone in the crowd suddenly spoke up weakly. She doesn't seem to have bullied us, right? Why did we hit her just now? These words were like a bucket of cold water, waking many people up. They carefully recalled that Trista, although having a bad reputation and being called crazy, had indeed never actively provoked them. They were simply afraid of her, afraid of the Justin behind her. Just as everyone looked at each other, unsure of what to say, a sharp voice suddenly rang out. Just because she hasn't bullied us, does that mean she hasn't bullied others? At the banquet the year before last, She broke young Master Wang's arm without saying a word. Last year, she even angered the Li family's elderly patriarch to death, and that little boy who fell into the water earlier, she stopped everyone from saving him, just watched him drown. We are avenging those victims. We are acting on behalf of heaven to carry out its way. Acting on behalf of heaven to carry out its way. Trista lay on the ground, using her last bit of strength to lift her head, laughing hoarsely with a mouthful of blood. That's their damn fault. These words instantly reignited the crowd's fury once again, still being stubborn even at this point. Hit, keep hitting, let her learn what it means to be wrong. After another round of punches and kicks, Trista could no longer hold on and completely lost consciousness. Trista, when she regained consciousness, the first thing that fell upon her ears was an icy interrogation. Trista, do you really despise Sophia so much that you can't tolerate her? She wanted to retort, but the tearing pain in her throat choked her voice, leaving her unable to make a sound. That was the spot cut by the glass. Every movement felt like being pricked by countless needles. Justin looked at her pale face, his fists involuntarily clenching, yet there was not a hint of pity in his tone. You brought this upon yourself. If you hadn't laid a hand on Sophia, you wouldn't have ended up like this. After saying that, he turned and walked out, his back resolute. Trista watching the direction he disappeared. A mocking curve lifted the corner of her lips. She found the small box in her handbag, tipped out the second white pill, and swallowed it with a backward tilt of her head. The cool sensation of the pill sliding down her throat gave her a twisted sense of pleasure. Only one pill remained. Once she took that last one tomorrow, she would be completely free from this nauseating world. The next day, Justin appeared again, followed by a red-eyed Sophia. Trista grabbed the water glass from the bedside table and threw it at the two of them, her voice hoarse and strained. Get out, Trista. Justin's face darkened abruptly. He instinctively shielded Sophia, and the glass hit his back with a dull thud. Sophia came all this way to visit you out of kindness, and this is the attitude you give her. Trista let out a cold laugh and repeated, get out. Justin's expression darkened even more, the fury in his eyes nearly boiling over, but just as he was about to erupt, his wrist was gently pulled by Sophia. Sophia gently shook her head, her eyes filled with dissuasion. Justin suppressed the anger in his heart instantly, reached out to touch Sophia's cheek, his tone full of helplessness. You're too kind, Sophia, being so soft on her will only harm you. Sophia curved her lips into a smile, then made a few hand gestures to Justin and pointed at Trista. Justin turned to look at Trista, his tone leaving no room for argument. Sophia said she wants to go on the helicopter sightseeing route in the neighboring scenic area, and she wants you to come along. Trista coldly refused. I'm not going. Justin was so angry that the veins on his temples bulged. He stepped forward directly, grabbed Trista's wrist, and pulled her off the hospital bed. You're going whether you want to or not. This is Sophia's gesture of goodwill, and you will accept it. When we arrived at the helicopter landing pad, it was Justin piloting it himself. He has a helicopter pilot's license with 10 years of flying experience, and he used to often take Trista for rides high in the sky. It was once their unique form of romance, but now, this romance includes another person, Sophia. From the moment she boarded the helicopter, Sophia's infatuated gaze was glued to Justin. Justin felt her gaze and couldn't help but curl a smile at the corner of his lips. He raised his hand to activate the autopilot mode, then turned and pulled Sophia into his arms, lowering his head to kiss her. Nearby, Trista watched the scene. Feeling so disgusted she wanted to vomit, she was just about to grab the emergency equipment in front of her and throw it at them when a deafening roar suddenly exploded. Before the three could react, the aircraft began to shake violently, the needles on the instrument panel went haywire, and the alarm blared piercingly. Justin's first instinct was to shield Sophia beneath him, using his own back to bear the brunt of the flying debris. Sophia, are you okay? He anxiously checked Sophia's body, afraid she might have suffered even the slightest injury. Sophia shook her head with tear-filled eyes and nestled even tighter into his embrace. Justin's gaze swept across the cabin, and when he saw the broken tail beam, his pupils suddenly shook with shock. The tail beam is broken. Trista enduring excruciating pain throughout her body, she struggled to get up and without a second thought, reached out to grab the parachute equipment in the corner. But just as she was about to touch the equipment, Justin suddenly rushed over, snatched it away, and swiftly began fitting it onto Sophia. "Justin, what are you doing?" Trista shouted, her eyes wide with fury. "There's only one parachute. Sophia will go down first. Once she lands, she'll contact rescue to come get us." Justin spoke calmly, as if Trista's presence was of no importance. Sophia suddenly gestured urgently in sign language, her gaze toward Justin and Trista filled with concern. Trista couldn't understand sign language, yet an inexplicable unease rose in her heart. Justin paused for a moment, then turned to look at Trista, his expression complex and unreadable. "Trista, Sophia has never skydived before. It's too dangerous for her to jump alone. I'll take her down first. And as soon as we land, I'll immediately send someone to rescue you." "No." Trista wanted to rush forward to stop them, but was pushed away by Justin. "Be obedient." He deftly removed the equipment from Sophia's body, put it back on himself, and then tightly pulled Sophia into his arms. Before leaping out of the cabin, he turned back and gave Trista a deep look. "Trista, I taught you the basics of helicopter operation before. Stabilize the fuselage first. I will definitely come back to save you." As the words fell, their figures instantly disappeared from the cabin entrance. Almost simultaneously, the helicopter's tail suddenly burst into raging flames. Trista suddenly remembered that helicopters usually have an emergency parachute device on board. The flames grew increasingly fierce, and the aircraft began uncontrollably hurtling toward the mountain ahead. Just as it was about to crash into the mountainside, she finally found the emergency parachute under the seat. The moment she leaped out, the helicopter exploded into a fireball behind her. When descending to a certain height, Trista tried to pull the parachute cord, but the line got stuck. Just as she thought she was doomed, the parachute cord suddenly snapped, and the canopy burst open violently. But because of the delay, the tremendous impact upon landing slammed her hard onto the ground. Her internal organs felt as if they had shifted, and blood gushed from her mouth. Lying on the ground, she struggled to pull out her phone and sent a message to her brother. Then, she fished out the last fake death pill from her pocket and swallowed it. Not long after swallowing the pill, a large amount of blood gushed from her mouth. Lying on the ground, she watched the birds flying freely in the sky and revealed a relieved smile. This time, whether she lived or died, she no longer cared. "Justin, between us, it's finally completely over." Justin staggered a few steps before steadying himself as he landed holding Sophia, ignoring the burning scrapes on his back. He immediately checked the condition of the person in his arms. "Are you hurt?" Seeing that she was only pale, he quickly pulled out his phone and dialed for rescue. "The helicopter's tail boom is broken, and there's still one person in the cabin. Send help immediately." Just as he was about to turn and coordinate the rescue, his wrist was grabbed by a pair of cold fingers. Sophia, her face was as pale as paper, her body going limp as she slid downward. "Sophia." Justin hurriedly scooped her up in his arms, his voice instantly softening. "Are you feeling unwell somewhere?" She weakly raised her hand, her fingers barely twitching before she completely lost consciousness. Justin, his pupils contracted sharply as he carried her and rushed toward the nearest hospital. It wasn't until he saw the emergency room door close that he began pacing anxiously in the corridor. Somehow, the image of Trista suddenly flashed through his mind. Was she still near the crashed helicopter? Had rescue arrived? Just as he was about to pull out his phone to call the rescue team, a nurse's voice suddenly came from behind. "Who is Sophia's family?" Justin immediately put down his phone and stepped forward quickly. "I am, doctor. How is she?" The doctor frowned. "She's almost 2 months pregnant. Didn't you know? How could you dare to take her skydiving? Something so dangerous. Pregnant." Justin was instantly overwhelmed with joy. He and Sophia were having another child. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you all." Justin nodded repeatedly, unable to contain his ecstatic delight. As soon as the doctor finished advising, "Take good care of her, don't let her get stressed again," he immediately rushed into the ward, leaned down, and kissed Sophia's forehead. "Sophia, did you hear? We're having another baby. This time, I will definitely protect you and the baby." Because of Sophia's pregnancy, Justin completely put Trista out of his mind. His heart and eyes were completely filled with Sophia, and he wished he could present the best of everything in the world to her, even putting company matters on hold for the time being. Sophia watched Justin busy himself just for her, a hint of smugness flashing in her eyes. Suddenly, she hooked her arms around his neck and kissed him. Justin held his breath, turning the tables by pressing her down onto the hospital bed, but stopped abruptly when his hand brushed against her lower abdomen. Let's hold back a little longer, until the baby is more stable. Sophia flashed a hint of displeasure in her eyes. Before he could finish speaking, she pushed him down onto the bed, her fingers slipping under the hem of his shirt. Justin, his handsome face twisted slightly, letting out a muffled groan, just as he was about to reach out to stop her. Sophia suddenly gestured a few signs in sign language at him. Justin, his pupils contracted, and before he could stop her, Sophia had already lowered her head. The next second, he couldn't help but swallow, his fingers gripping her hair suddenly tightening. For the next half-month, the two were inseparable like conjoined twins. It wasn't until the assistant made the 17th phone call that Justin reluctantly left the hospital. Sophia, would you like to come to the company with me? He stood at the door of the hospital room, his gaze fixed on Sophia. Sophia's eyes lit up as she gestured to him. Won't I be disturbing you? It's better with you here, Justin said with a smile, kissing her cheek. When they arrived at the company, Justin had to attend an emergency meeting, so he asked Sophia to wait in his office. Before long, there was a knock on the office door, and the secretary entered carrying a plate of exquisite pastries. Ms. Sophia. The president was worried you might be hungry and asked us to bring you something to eat. She had just placed the pastries on the table and was about to say a few more words of concern when a voice full of coldness suddenly sounded. Who are you trying to seduce, dressed like that? The secretary was taken aback, then looked at Sophia in surprise. Ms. Sophia, you can speak. Sophia, displeasure flashed in her eyes. I'm asking if you dressed so provocatively to seduce Justin. The secretary looked down at her professional suit and explained somewhat aggrievedly, Ms. Sophia, this is just normal professional attire. Normal professional attire. Sophia let out a cold laugh, abruptly stood up, and reached out to snatch the scarf from the secretary's neck. With such a low neckline and such tight pants, how dare you say you weren't trying to seduce someone? The secretary's face instantly turned pale, her eyes reddening. Ms. Sophia, you can't slander me like this. I really didn't. Slap. Before she could finish her sentence, Sophia slapped the secretary across the face. Justin's pet dares to talk back to me. Sophia threw the silk scarf in her face. Strip naked and get out, or I'll ruin your career. The secretary trembled with rage, about to retort when the office door suddenly swung open and Justin's voice came through. What's going on? I could hear the commotion from outside, before the secretary could speak. She saw Sophia's arrogant expression vanish instantly, replaced by a fragile, pitiful demeanor. She quickly threw herself into Justin's arms, as if she had suffered a great injustice, but didn't say a word, only sobbing quietly. The secretary's eyes widened in shock. Justin's face suddenly darkened. He lowered his head to comfort Sophia a few words, then looked coldly at the secretary. What did you do to her? Did you bully her? The secretary felt even more wronged. President, it wasn't me. It was Ms. Sophia who scolded me just now, and she even slapped me. She also told me to take off my clothes. Justin frowned. What nonsense are you talking about? Sophia can't speak. How could she possibly scold you? The Sophia in his arms timely raised her tearful eyes, quickly gesturing in sign language, occasionally casting timid glances at the secretary, perfectly portraying a delicate white flower who had suffered endless bullying. Justin's expression grew increasingly gloomy as he suddenly grabbed the documents and slammed them down violently. Get out, you're fired. The secretary gasped in pain as the file hit her shoulder, her eyes reddened with anger, and she could no longer hold back, shouting, Justin, you're completely being deceived by this woman. You'll both get what's coming to you. As she reached the door, she suddenly turned back and glared coldly at Sophia. Trista, even if Lady Trista is known to be insane by everyone, she's 100 times better than this pretentious bitch. Justin was pricked by the name Trista, and suddenly the image of Trista's desperate eyes in the helicopter flashed through his mind. So many days had passed, and he had actually forgotten to ask about the rescue results, not knowing how she was doing. Ah, my stomach hurts so much. Sophia's cry of pain snapped him back to reality. He hurriedly helped her to the sofa and was about to call a doctor when the office door was violently kicked open. An enraged figure stormed in, grabbed Justin by the collar, and punched him hard in the face. "Justin, is this how you fucking treat my sister?" Justin wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes turned cold as he recognized the person. "Galen, what the hell is wrong with you?" Galen once again saw the scene of finding his sister in his mind. She lay in a pool of blood, her internal organs severely damaged, barely breathing. Thinking of this, he lunged forward with reddened eyes. "If you didn't love her, you should have divorced her. Why did you have to push her to her death?" The two of them wrestled with each other. After all, the youth's strength was meager, and he was quickly subdued to the ground by Justin. "I've taken care of her for 5 years, Justin said with bloodshot eyes. "What kind of life have I lived these 5 years? When she went crazy, I went crazy with her. When she killed, I helped bury the bodies. Isn't that enough?" He viciously kicked Galen away. "You Canes have no right to question me." As he spoke, he walked over and prepared to take Sophia away. Galen staggered to his feet, blocking the way. "Was it for this bitch that you tortured my sister?" Sophia was so frightened that she immediately buried herself in Justin's arms. Justin's face instantly turned as cold as ice. "Get lost." Galen didn't move. Staring at him intently, Justin pursed his lips tightly, looked down at the person in his arms, and said gently, "I'll have my assistant take you back first. I'll come find you as soon as I've dealt with this matter." After seeing the person off, Justin turned a cold gaze toward him. "Galen, if you have any issues, take them up with me. If you dare lay a hand on Sophia, I will never let you get away with it." "Fine," Galen said, grabbing an ashtray and hurling it. "You said it yourself." Blood trickled down Justin's temple, murderous intent surged in his eyes, but then he heard Galen's cold sneer. Who was it that swore to take care of her for a lifetime, got tired of her after just 5 years, that was out of pity for her? Justin interrupted sharply. "Besides me, who would want someone who's been used and discarded?" "Shut up." Galen's eyes instantly turned bloodshot, and he mustered all his strength, throwing punch after punch at Justin's face. "How dare you talk about my sister like that? Justin, I'm going to kill you." By the time the bodyguards rushed in at the sound, the office was already in complete disarray. Justin wiped the blood from his face and cast a cold glance at Galen, who was pinned to the ground. "Out of respect for your sister, I'll let you off this time. Don't ever show your face in front of me again." As he reached the door, he suddenly stopped. "Since you're here, take your sister with you. I'll have someone send over the divorce papers." Galen watched his retreating figure, the pent-up despair finally erupting. He shouted with all his might, "Justin, my sister is dead. You'll never see her again." Justin's expression changed, then he let out a cold laugh. "I contacted the rescue team as soon as I landed and also synchronized with the control center. She can't be dead." Galen laughed with reddened eyes. "Justin, are you really that dumb or just pretending? You can fly a helicopter yourself, with the tail boom broken and engulfed in flames. Do you really think there's any chance of survival?" Justin was taken aback, then urgently retorted, "There was no fire at all. When we parachuted out, there wasn't even. It caught fire less than 3 seconds after you left." Galen interrupted him, his eyes icy cold. "Do you know how desperate she was at that moment?" Justin instantly turned deathly pale. However, Galen took a deep breath. "She found a backup parachute under the seat." Justin immediately relaxed his tense back, and his heart that had been in his throat sank heavily. "I told you she wouldn't die. What a pity." Galen sneered, though his eyes uncontrollably reddened. "Heaven wants her dead. The parachute just wouldn't open." By the time it finally did, she had already slammed hard into the ground and died from the impact. Justin's heart, which had just settled, was violently seized again. "Impossible." His bloodshot eyes fixed fiercely on Galen. "You're lying to me, lying to you." Galen laughed in extreme anger. "Justin, she was my own sister. Do you really think I would lie about something like this? You always thought my sister was holding you back. Well, now she's dead, you're finally free." After saying this, Galen didn't linger any longer, turning around and leaving immediately. Justin suddenly snapped back to reality, rushing forward and grabbing him. "Trista, where is she now?" Galen shoved him away. "You don't deserve to see my sister. I'll take her away from here." "No." Justin felt a sharp pang in his heart. "Galen, I need to see her. I don't believe she's dead." Galen looked at his distraught state, let out a cold laugh, and finally nodded. "Fine, you want to see her, I'll take you to her right now." When I reached the basement level of the hospital, A bone-chilling cold instantly spread throughout my body. Justin suddenly didn't dare to go any further and stopped in his tracks. "Why did you stop? Keep going." Galen looked at him coldly, full of mockery. "Are you afraid my sister will come to claim your life?" Justin felt a sharp pang in his heart, so painful he could hardly breathe. Galen suddenly shoved him into the morgue. On the only corpse bed lay a familiar figure. She was emaciated and pale, still wearing the white dress from that day. With the corners of her mouth and the collar of her dress stained crimson with blood, her expression was serene, like a sleeping infant, but she was no longer breathing. Justin's heart suddenly raced, as if it were about to leap out of his chest. He rushed forward in disbelief, and the moment his fingertips touched her cold skin, it felt like plunging into an icy abyss. No, it can't be. He never wanted her to die. Galen watched him collapse to the ground with a cold gaze, satisfied. Now you can be together with Sophia. She survived those 15 days. How could she? Justin suddenly grabbed Galen by the collar. "You conspired to deceive me, didn't you?" She was so afraid of death. "Enough." Galen shoved him away fiercely. "My sister is already dead. From now on, you and she will go your separate ways." He carefully picked up his sister, his voice choked with emotion. "Sis, I'm taking you home." Justin gazed at the receding figure, a sudden surge of panic rising from the depths of his heart. Almost instinctively, he broke into a run and chased after her. "She is my wife. You can't take her away." Galen swung around abruptly and kicked him away fiercely. "You don't deserve to call my sister your wife." Justin staggered a few steps from the kick, barely managing to steady himself. After a dazed moment, he suddenly burst into laughter. "I'm not worthy of her. Trista is worthy then." "Galen, I'm telling you, she deserved to die. This is all her fate. It's the debt she owed others. Even the heavens wouldn't let her go." "Say that again if you dare." Galen's pupils suddenly contracted. "So what if I say it again?" Justin's bloodshot eyes swept over the corpse. "How much evil has she dragged me into? How many people has she killed? This is her fate. Take her away quickly. Don't dirty this place." With that, he turned and walked away, as if staying even a second longer would be unbearable. But after just 2 steps, a cold, mocking voice came from behind him. "Galen, Justin, you fool, you deserve to be played like a fiddle by a fake mute." His footsteps faltered slightly, but in the end, he did not look back. Justin returned to the car, his knuckles gripping the steering wheel so tightly they turned white, a dull, indescribable ache churning in his chest. After what felt like an eternity, he abruptly started the engine, and the Maybach shot into the traffic like an arrow released from its bow, speeding, changing lanes, running red lights. Amid the screeching brakes and blaring horns, he remained completely oblivious. Boom! The violent impact threw him forward abruptly, the airbag slamming hard into his face. Shards of glass scraped across his cheek, warm droplets of blood trickling down. In that instant, a vision flashed before his eyes, Trista lunging forward to shield him from the broken glass. Her back was covered in blood, yet all she cared about was asking him, "Justin, are you okay? Trying to get yourself killed? Didn't you see the red light?" An angry shout came from outside the car window. Justin snapping back to reality. Justin casually signed a check and tossed it out before restarting the car. He had just returned to the villa and rushed out before the car even came to a complete stop. At this moment, he desperately wanted to find someone who could bring him peace of mind, but the person running toward him was the servant, whose face was covered in bruises. "Sir." The maid grabbed his sleeve and cried, "MS." Sophia suddenly went crazy and started hitting people, saying, "We were trying to seduce you." Justin frowned and looked over, only to see Sophia rushing into his arms with disheveled clothes, tearfully gesturing. "They said I don't deserve to live here and want to drive me away." "She's lying," the maid who understood sign language urgently retorted. "It was clearly MS. Sophia who started it first, and she can actually speak." Sophia cried even louder. Justin suddenly felt a surge of irritation in his heart, but he patiently soothed, "You go upstairs first," as she passed the servant. Sophia curled the corner of her lips into a smug smile. The kneeling servant continued to plead, "Sir, we're telling the truth." This was already the 3rd time someone had accused Sophia of pretending to be mute. If this is true, then what about Trista? His heart suddenly ached with a sharp pain. He dialed his assistant's number. 10 minutes. "I want all the information on Sophia." when the assistant placed the investigation report on the desk. Justin's knuckles turned white from gripping too hard. "Mr. Justin." Sophia was indeed pretending to be mute. Last time at the banquet, she deliberately provoked Madam, which is why Madam slapped her. Those servants were indeed beaten by Sophia, and the secretary you fired that day was also humiliated by Sophia, who said she was dressing provocatively to seduce you. Most importantly, the special assistant took a deep breath. She bribed someone to tamper with the helicopter's tailboom. And she also sabotaged the backup parachute. Justin's temples bulged with veins, his eyes surging with a storm capable of destroying heaven and earth. He loosened his tie and squeezed out an icy command through gritted teeth. "Bring Sophia to me." At this moment, Sophia was lying leisurely on the bed, stroking her stomach, casting a cold glance at the maid kneeling and kowtowing on the floor. "Weren't you going to tattle?" Her voice was sweet as honey, but her words were laced with venom. Justin, believe you or not, the room was dead silent, with only the dull thud of a forehead hitting the floor. "You," she casually pointed to a maid. "Speak." The maid trembled like a sieve, about to speak, when the cold voice of the special assistant came from outside the door. "Ms. Sophia, the president requests your presence." Sophia's eyes flashed with delight. She viciously kicked aside the maid in front of her and strutted past the special assistant with an air of arrogance. The moment she stepped into the office, her footsteps faltered. The room was filled with sternly standing bodyguards. Justin stood with his back to her before the floor-to-ceiling window, the air thick and heavy as iron. She forced herself to appear calm and rushed forward, but the moment her fingers brushed the hem of his clothes, she was shoved away harshly. Justin turned around, the raging violence in his eyes sending a chill through her entire body. "Explain." His voice was hoarse as his gaze swept toward the corner. Sophia followed his line of sight. The mechanic she had bribed was kneeling on the ground, a bloody mess. "It was all Ms. Sophia's doing." The mechanic kowtowed frantically. "She threatened my mother's life. I truly know I was wrong. Mr. Justin, I beg you. Spare me. I'll never dare do it again. I'm willing to cooperate with the police and tell them everything." Sophia turned deathly pale and hurriedly gestured in sign language. But Justin grabbed her by the chin, still pretending. He snatched the dagger from the bodyguard, pressing the tip against her tongue. "You like playing mute? Then I'll cut out your tongue right now and make your dream come true, alright." Before the words had even fully left his mouth, the blade twisted lightly on her tongue. As excruciating pain exploded through her, Sophia could no longer keep up the act, letting out a piercing scream. "I was wrong, Mr. Justin. I truly know I was wrong. Please, spare me." As she spoke, she desperately kowtowed, and soon her forehead was bleeding from the impact. Justin leaned down, pinched her chin again, and forced her to look up at him. "Sophia, do you know what I hate most in my life? I hate being deceived the most, and you not only dared to deceive me, but also used my trust to hurt Trista again and again. You caused her to suffer so many beatings. Nearly got her killed on the helicopter. Do you really think you can escape?" Sophia was instantly terrified out of her wits, shaking her head desperately. "Mr. Justin, I beg you, please spare me. I'm carrying your child. For the sake of the child, let me go this once. I promise I'll obey from now on. I won't dare do it again." "Ha, the child," Justin sneered coldly. "A vicious woman like you doesn't deserve to bear my child. And what, you think this child can save your life? Spare you? Then who will spare my Trista? For everything you did to Trista, I will repay you 1,000-fold on her behalf." He straightened up and coldly ordered the bodyguard at the door, "Take her to the helicopter landing site. I'll personally make her experience what it feels like to fall from high altitude." On the helipad, Sophia was tied in a spread eagle position, like a giant kite, fastened to the helicopter's landing gear with a thick rope. Meanwhile, Justin sat in the pilot's seat, staring at her with icy eyes as he started the helicopter. "No, please no, Justin, I'm begging you, let me go. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong." Sophia let out a terrified scream, tears streaming down her face. The next moment, the helicopter slowly ascended. Sophia was left dangling in midair, swaying back and forth with the helicopter's movement. Beneath her feet was a bottomless abyss, where she could plummet at any moment and be shattered to pieces. "Justin, I'm carrying your child. You can't do this to me. Let me go. I'll give birth to the child. I'll never bother you again." The only response she received was the roar of the helicopter and Justin's cold, indifferent gaze. Justin sat inside the cabin, coldly watching the struggling figure, and spoke softly into the communicator. "Child, then you and that bastard can atone together." Justin let out a cold laugh, his eyes showing not a ripple of emotion. He activated the autopilot, pulled a military knife from the storage compartment, and pressed it against the rope. Fear instantly filled Sophia's eyes as she cried out loudly, "No, don't, sigh, Before she could finish her words, the saber lightly sliced through, and the thick rope instantly snapped. Sophia plummeted straight down. Midway, she was caught by a branch from the trees below, but the branch couldn't bear the weight and broke, and she still crashed heavily to the ground. A mouthful of fresh blood suddenly spurted from Sophia's mouth. Her entire body ached as if her bones had been shattered, and she lay collapsed on the ground like a broken doll, with only her chest still faintly rising and falling. Justin descended from the helicopter and walked step by step to Sophia, saying, "Sophia, your biggest mistake was touching Trista." Sophia struggled to lift her head, looked at his cold expression, and suddenly burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha, Justin. When you were sleeping with me, why didn't you think of Trista? When you held me and asked me to bear your child, why didn't you think of Trista? Let me tell you, the one who killed Trista wasn't just me, it was you too. If it weren't for your indulgence, if it weren't for your favoritism, how could I have hurt her again and again? I may be the prime culprit, but you are the accomplice." She coughed up blood, laughing even more maniacally. "When she was alive, you didn't know how to cherish her. Now that she's dead, you're filled with regret. What's with this act of deep affection? Ha ha ha, what a pity. Trista is dead, she's never coming back, you'll never see her again." Justin's face completely darkened. "Guards, cut out her tongue." The bodyguard immediately drew a knife, and amidst Sophia's terrified eyes and muffled screams of "no," the dagger swiftly sliced through her mouth. A bloody tongue was thrown on the ground, and blood instantly gushed from Sophia's mouth. Sophia writhed in pain, her whole body convulsing. She wanted to scream and get up, but as soon as she pushed herself off the ground, she collapsed and fell completely unconscious. Justin said coldly to the bodyguard, "Take her to the hospital. If she lives, she lives. If she doesn't, that's her fate." With that, he turned and walked out. Just as he reached the airport exit, a basin of Black Dog's blood was suddenly thrown at him from the side. Drenching him completely, a group of people swarmed around him, led by a middle-aged man who pointed at his nose and angrily shouted, "Justin, you're not even human. How could you collude with your mistress to kill Ms. Trista? Why wasn't it you who died instead?" The bodyguard made a move to step forward, but Justin raised his hand to stop him, coldly staring at the person in front of him. The group turned pale under his gaze, yet not a single person stepped back. One of the girls in a school uniform stepped forward, her eyes red as she spoke. "You all call Ms. Trista a demon, but she's the best person I've ever met. At last year's banquet, the young master of the Wang family got drunk and tried to force himself on me. It was Ms. Trista who rushed over and personally broke his arm. To protect my reputation, she even deliberately claimed she had a grudge against the Wang family's young master, taking all the blame for me." A woman in her 30s also stepped forward, "And that old man from the Li family is no good person at all. On the surface, he appears refined, but in reality, he's full of wickedness. I'm his daughter-in-law. Because I'm pretty, he's always wanted to take advantage of me. Even his own son helped him, trying to push me into his father's bed. It was Ms. Trista who caught them, helped me divorce that beast, and exposed the Li family scandal. That old man couldn't take the shame and ended up kicking the bucket. And then there was that drowning little boy last time," a young man with red-rimmed eyes added. "He's not a little boy at all. He's my father. He's over 50 years old, a dwarf. He abused my mother for years and ended up beating her to death. I posted online seeking help, and it was Ms. Trista who found me and helped me get revenge by using the drowning method. She was afraid I'd be implicated, so she deliberately took the blame onto herself." The group echoed with overlapping voices of agreement, each person recounting Trista's past assistance to them. Finally, the girl in the school uniform sobbed and cried out, "Ms. Trista is not a demon at all, she is a bodhisattva, our savior." Justin stood frozen in place, suddenly stunned. All the evidence he had taken as proof that Trista was crazy turned out to be stains she deliberately left behind to protect others. He remembered his past misunderstandings and accusations toward Trista, and how he had hurt her again and again for Sophia's sake. His heart ached so much he could hardly breathe. This incident was filmed and posted online, quickly going viral. In the comments section, more and more people who had been helped by Trista came forward to speak out. Sharing evidence and recounting Trista's kindness, netizens then realized that Trista had been using her demon reputation as a cover, quietly helping those who were bullied. Justin returned to the villa where he and Trista had once lived, looking utterly dejected, pushing open the door. The inside was empty and devoid of any human presence. At this moment, all the regret and pain washed over him like a tidal wave. He slid down the wall and sat on the floor, tears streaming uncontrollably from his eyes. Trista, I'm sorry, it's my fault. I didn't understand you enough. I was blind to have been deceived by Sophia. He choked up, murmuring over and over again, come back, okay, I know I was wrong, I'll never hurt you again, please come back. In a private hospital room 1 month later, Galen leaned over the bedside, his eyes fixed intently on the person lying there. Suddenly, the person on the bed fluttered their eyelashes lightly, then slowly opened their eyes. Those eyes, once filled with despair and madness, now reflected the sunlight with a hint of drowsy haze, like stars washed clean of dust. Galen froze instantly, and the next second, he snapped back to reality and tightly embraced Trista. Sis, you're finally awake, you're finally awake. I thought I'd never see you again. Trista was being hugged so tightly she could barely breathe, yet she still gently returned the embrace, curling the corners of her lips as her eyes reddened. Don't worry, I'm tough, not so easy to kill. See, I'm perfectly fine now. Galen released her, his eyes red as he looked her over from head to toe, his tone carrying a hint of grievance. Sis, do you know when I found you, you were covered in blood, and your breathing was so weak it seemed like it could stop at any moment. I almost couldn't tell whether you were feigning death because of the fake death pill, or if you had really stopped breathing due to your severe injuries. Trista looked at the red veins in her brother's eyes and his haggard appearance, her heart aching with pity, and couldn't help but let out a light laugh. Do you really want me dead that badly? If I were really gone, who would clean up your messes? Of course not. Galen shook his head anxiously, tears nearly falling. You're my only family left. Sister, you must stay well, better than anyone else. Trista curled her lips into a smile. Don't worry, after going through so much, your sister is now invincible. From now on, no one will ever be able to bully us again. Seeing her so confident and relaxed, Galen suddenly remembered their childhood when their parents were still alive and the Kane family hadn't gone bankrupt yet. My sister is just like that, always joking around, radiating a carefree glow. He clenched his fists, silently vowing, from now on, he must work hard, restore the Kane family, and give his sister the best life, never letting her suffer any grievances again. Knock, knock, knock. The sudden knocking on the hospital room door interrupted the siblings' tender moment. Galen turned around and, upon seeing who had arrived, immediately stood up and pulled him to the bedside. Excitedly, he said to Trista, Sis, this is my senior from the lab, Fabian. The fake death drug you took was developed by him. This time, you were able to wake up because he kept monitoring your physical data and adjusting the treatment plan. He's amazing, and what's more, Galen deliberately drew out his words, winked at Trista, and lowered his voice. His single. Trista looked utterly helpless and reached out to pat his arm. Don't talk nonsense, she said. Fabian stood nearby, wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, exuding an elegant and refined temperament. He extended his hand toward Trista. Hello, Miss Trista. I am Fabian. Trista gently shook his hand and nodded politely. Thank you, Mr. Fabian. You've worked hard during this time. It's my duty. Fabian withdrew his hand, adjusted his glasses, and suddenly seemed to remember something, his tone carrying a hint of caution. Ms. Trista, I have an unreasonable request. I wonder if you'd be willing. Trista looked puzzled. What is it? You're the only person who has fully used the fake death drug so far. I need to record more detailed physical response data for further optimization of the drug. I wonder if you could accompany me to the lab and assist with a simple recording. Fabian paused, afraid she might misunderstand, and added, if Ms. Trista hasn't fully recovered and it's inconvenient. That's fine too. I can come by later to take notes. Trista snapped back to attention immediately and shook her head. It's fine. I'm feeling quite well now. Going to the lab is okay too. When should we go? Now. Fabian, a flicker of amusement flashed in his eyes as he nodded. Yes, if it's convenient for you. Trista started to get out of bed as she spoke, but having barely moved for a month, her body was still weak. The moment she stood up, her vision went black, and she staggered, nearly falling. Beside her, Fabian reacted quickly, catching her by the waist and holding her steady. His palm was warm and strong, the heat clearly felt through the thin hospital gown. Are you okay? Fabian's voice sounded above her head, tinged with concern. Trista snapped back to reality immediately, straightening up and stepping out of his embrace, her cheeks slightly flushed. It's nothing. Thank you. I might just be a bit hypoglycemic. She stood in place for a moment to recover, and her complexion gradually returned to normal. Galen saw it clearly from the side, secretly raising an eyebrow at Fabian, his eyes filled with a wingman's smile. Galen, are you coming too? Trista looked at her brother. Fabian also turned to look at him, his eyes filled with inquiry. Galen shook his head like a rattledrum, quickly waving his hands. No, I still have things to take care of. You guys go ahead. I know the way to the lab well. You can go straight there. After saying that, he even gave Fabian an encouraging "you can do it" look. Fabian curled his lips slightly, not exposing his little scheme, and turned to look at Trista. Then let's go. The lab isn't far from here. After arriving at the lab, Fabian handed Trista a clean lab coat. After she changed into it, the two sat down on chairs beside the experimental bench. Fabian took out a notebook and pen, opened it, and asked seriously, "Ms. Trista, could you please tell me what specific reactions you experienced after taking the first suspended animation pill, such as physical discomfort or changes in consciousness?" Trista tried hard to recall and answered truthfully. At first, I felt a bit short of breath, as if something was pressing on my chest, then it gradually faded away, and my consciousness became increasingly hazy. In the end, it felt just like falling asleep. Other than that, there weren't any particularly unusual reactions. Fabian nodded, quickly jotting down notes in his notebook, then asked several more questions about the physical sensations after taking the medication and the process of regaining consciousness. As the two engaged in their question and answer session, more than 2 hours slipped by unnoticed. All right, that's about it. Fabian closed his notebook. Thank you for your help today. I've taken up so much of your time. Let me treat you to a meal. There's a nice restaurant nearby. Trista was just about to refuse when a sudden bang erupted from nearby. Immediately after, the reagent shelf in the corner of the laboratory collapsed, spilling chemicals onto the floor, which instantly burst into flames. The lab was stocked with numerous flammable and explosive chemical substances. The fire quickly spread, fueled by the draft from the ventilation shaft, and accompanied by the crackling sounds of shattering glassware. In no time, the entire room was engulfed in thick smoke. Trista was stunned by the sudden turn of events, standing frozen in place, her mind completely blank. Just as a glass beaker filled with strong acid in front of her was about to crack and explode from the intense heat of the fire, a figure rushed over, tightly embracing her and turning to shield her with his own body. Boom! The beaker exploded on cue, and the corrosive liquid splashed onto Fabian's back. His white lab coat was instantly burned through, and blood soon soaked through the fabric, staining his back red. Trista snapped back to reality instantly, seeing the bloodstains on his back. Her pupils abruptly contracted. Fabian, are you okay? You're back. Fabian forced a smile as he endured the excruciating pain in his back. Don't worry, I'm fine, it's just a minor injury. This place is dangerous, let me get you out of here first. Trista sat on the long bench in the hospital corridor, her eyes fixed intently on the tightly closed operating room door, her heart clenched into a tight knot. Sis, don't worry too much. Galen gently patted her shoulder. Last time the lab exploded, the fire was even bigger than this one. He rushed into the fire to retrieve the data and ended up with over a dozen stitches on his back. But he was fine. These words did nothing to ease her tension. Fabian, the moment he pushed her away, the image of scorching heat carrying shards of glass rushing toward her still flickered before her eyes. After experiencing Justin's betrayal, she no longer dared to easily accept such heavy protection. when the operating room lights went out. She practically sprang up from the bench. "Don't worry, the surgery was successful. The burns and chemical corrosion on her back will take time to heal, but she's out of danger." The doctor's words made Trista let out a long sigh of relief. In the hospital room, Fabian lay quietly as the anesthesia hadn't worn off yet. Trista had stayed up all night and was now sleeping lightly with her head resting on her arm. Fabian opened his eyes and saw this very scene. The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting a soft glow on her face. Her long lashes cast faint shadows under her eyes, and without the usual sharpness and guardedness, she appeared exceptionally gentle. This made him feel as if he had been transported back to 4 years ago. At that time, he was still studying abroad for his master's degree. Galen had brought him back to the country to attend Trista's birthday party. At the party, Trista wore a champagne-colored gown and stood alone by the window. As she listened to others gossiping about her, she simply smiled faintly. That figure inexplicably made his heart ache a little. As they were about to leave, Galen pulled him along to say goodbye. Trista's casual glance was clear yet distant, yet it made his heart pound like a drum. From that day on, Trista's figure was branded in his mind, and even in his dreams, her image appeared, fully aware that she was already married. He could only desperately suppress this stirring of his heart, throwing all his energy into his experiments, thinking that this way he could forget. But half a year ago, Galen came to him with reddened eyes, saying his sister wanted to use a fake death potion to leave Justin. At that moment, the joy hidden in his heart instantly surged up. Without a second thought, he handed over the newly developed fake death potion to Galen, even wishing he could deliver it himself, just to see her again. Trista, during the time she was unconscious, he had been waiting for her to wake up, waiting for her to get to know him again. Under the identity of Trista, Fabian slowly raised his hand, wanting to touch her cheek, but just as his fingertips were about to reach her skin, Trista suddenly opened her eyes. His hand froze in mid-air, caught in a dilemma. Before he could withdraw it, Trista subtly avoided his touch. "Are you feeling unwell anywhere else?" Trista sat up straight and rubbed her eyes. "The doctor said your back is quite seriously injured." Fabian hurriedly withdrew his hand and shook his head. "I'm fine now, thank you, Ms. Trista, for staying here with me all this time. You saved me. It's the least I could do." Trista avoided his gaze, stood up and straightened her clothes. "Since you're awake now, I should head back. I'll have Galen come take care of you later. He's more attentive than I am." With that, she turned and started to walk away. "Trista," Fabian blurted out anxiously, but when he saw Trista stop and look back at him, the words he had on the tip of his tongue just wouldn't come out. He wanted to say, "I don't want Galen to come, I want you to stay with me." I wanted to say I've liked you for a long time, but in the end, it only came out as a stiff thank you. Trista didn't say anything more, nodded, and then turned to leave. Just after leaving the ward, she ran into Galen carrying breakfast. She grabbed her brother's arm and pulled him to the corner of the hallway. "Does Fabian like me?" Trista got straight to the point, her expression serious. Galen immediately widened his eyes. "Sis, did he confess to you?" Trista didn't speak, only quietly watched him, waiting for an explanation. Galen scratched his head, sighed, and laid everything out, from the fleeting glance at the birthday banquet 4 years ago, to how Fabian suppressed his feelings, and how he unhesitatingly produced the fake death pill. Finally, he didn't forget to speak up for Fabian. "Sis, actually Senior Fabian is really great. He's gentle, talented, and cares about you. Why don't you?" "Because he is a good man." Trista interrupted him, her tone calm yet resolute. "That's precisely why I can't hold him back. You know better than anyone what I've been through. I have no intention of starting a new relationship now, from now on. There's no need to involve me in matters between you two." She turned to leave, unaware that the hospital room door had quietly cracked open a sliver. Fabian stood behind the door, his face pale, having overheard the entire conversation. Trista turned around and happened to meet his gaze. Her footsteps faltered slightly, a flicker of embarrassment passing through her eyes, but she quickly regained her composure, giving only a slight nod before turning sideways to leave. Over the next few days, Trista and Fabian never saw each other again, until Galen found her and said he wanted to return to his home country. "Sis, I've graduated now and learned everything I needed to." Galen sat opposite her, his gaze resolute. "I want to go back and revive the Kane family." We can't just let our parents' deaths go unavenged, and I also want to take good care of you so you won't have to suffer any more hardships. Looking at the young man before her who had grown tall enough to protect her, Trista's eyes instantly welled up with tears. All right, sister will go back with you. Together, we'll reclaim everything we've lost. As she boarded the flight back home, Trista glanced at Fabian sitting beside her, then turned her head coldly to look at Galen sitting in the back row, pretending to admire the scenery. Fabian noticed her gaze and explained in a gentle tone. I received an offer from a university back home and was just about to return to take up a teaching position, so I thought I'd travel with you. It's nice to have company on the journey. Trista looked at him, opened her mouth wanting to say no need, but the words caught in her throat before she could speak. At this point, saying anything more would be useless. As soon as they got off the plane, Galen clutched his stomach, complaining he was starving, insisting they find a place to eat first. They had just sat down in the restaurant when the conversation from the next table drifted over, clearly mentioning that name. I heard Justin has nearly gone mad for Trista. He's hired Taoist priests to summon her spirit and spent a fortune on some clone research, all just to recreate Trista. If you ask me, he totally deserves it. Back then, he killed Trista for the sake of a fake mute, and now he's putting on this devoted act. Exactly. But that Trista was something too. She clearly did a good deed, yet insisted on taking the blame, making everyone dislike her. Trista's hand holding the chopsticks paused slightly, then she continued eating with an unchanged expression. Galen sneered, Justin really has no shame. Trista gently tapped his forehead. Eat your meal properly. Galen still couldn't swallow his anger and turned to look at Fabian across the table. If only you had met my sister earlier. She wouldn't have been hurt so badly by that beast. The atmosphere at the dining table suddenly turned quiet. Just as Trista thought Fabian wouldn't respond, his gentle voice sounded, meeting now isn't too late either. Trista's fingertips trembled slightly as she looked up and met his profound gaze. In just 1 second, she hastily averted her eyes, her heartbeat inexplicably quickening. She abruptly stood up. I'm going to the restroom, almost fled in a panic, standing in front of the sink. She looked at her flushed cheeks in the mirror and slapped her face hard. Trista, pull yourself together. After calming her emotions, she lowered her head and walked out while drying her hands, only to unexpectedly bump into a solid chest. Trista hurriedly stepped back, about to apologize, but her expression darkened the moment she clearly saw the other person's face. What a streak of bad luck. She had just returned to the country and ran into Justin. She turned to leave, but Justin firmly blocked her way. Trista, it's you, isn't it? You're still alive. His voice trembled, his eyes bloodshot as he stared intently at her. Trista said with a cold face, Mr. Justin, you've mistaken me for someone else. Impossible. Justin grabbed her wrist abruptly, tears welling up in his reddened eyes. You are my Trista. I knew you wouldn't die. You wouldn't just leave me like this. Trista struggled fiercely, her eyes filled with disgust. Let go of me. The more she struggled, the tighter he held on. Trista, do you have any idea how I've been living all these days? I miss you every day. I've seen through Sophia's true nature and dealt with her. No one will ever disturb us again. Trista, let's go home. Let's never be apart again in this lifetime, okay? He grabbed her hand and tried to leave. Suddenly, a heavy punch landed hard on his face. Justin stumbled and fell to the ground, looking utterly disheveled. Galen glared at him, fists clenched. How dare you come and harass my sister again? Justin, I'm warning you. If you get near her one more time, I'll kill you. Fabian's gaze fell on Trista's reddened wrist, a cold, murderous glint flashing in his eyes. He stepped forward to shield Trista, casting a cold glance at the person on the ground. Let's go. Galen disgustedly spat toward Justin. My sister has Fabian now. She wouldn't even spare a second glance at trash like you. Justin wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, glaring venomously at the three figures walking away together as he slowly pulled out his phone. Look into someone named Fabian. In less than 10 minutes, all the information was sent to his phone. No parents, completely alone, and had just received an offer letter from Peking University. Justin stared at the screen, a cold smile curling at the corner of his lips. How dare a nobody with no background compete with him? In the following days, Justin was nowhere to be seen, and Trista felt much more at ease. Rebuilding the Kane family was no easy task. Galen was so busy he barely touched the ground. coming home each day only to collapse into bed, then heading back to the company before dawn, wishing he could split himself in two to get everything done. Trista in her early years. Trista often accompanied her father to the company and was quite familiar with the business. She passed on all her knowledge, hoping to help her brother. Just as the company was about to go public, it suddenly came under strong pressure. The one behind it was Justin. Galen was so furious he stomped his feet on the spot. That bastard, I'm going to settle the score with him. Trista hurriedly grabbed him. Galen, don't be impulsive. Hearing his sister's voice, Galen suppressed his anger and sat down, then suddenly remembered something and turned to ask, by the way sis, did Fabian tell you about him going back to his hometown? Back to his hometown? Trista was startled. Didn't he receive the offer from Capital University? Where is his hometown? You actually didn't know he was expelled? Galen widened his eyes. Expelled? Trista froze. Why, he went to report in a few days ago, and right after entering the school gate, he received a termination notice. The reason given was improper conduct and a chaotic private life. Galen slammed the table in anger. I've known Senior Jew for so many years. And I've never met anyone more upright than him. The school is simply talking nonsense. Trista's face darkened abruptly. It's Justin. Galen suddenly realized. That beast is coming after me. But to think he wouldn't even spare Brother Jew. As soon as the words were spoken, Trista's phone rang. Looking at the familiar number on the screen, she didn't hang up, nor did she answer. The phone kept ringing incessantly. Trista finally pressed the answer button. Justin's deep voice came through. Trista. Galen erupted on the spot. Justin, what exactly do you want? Targeting me is one thing. But why drag the innocent into this? Justin completely ignored his question and said softly to Trista, Trista, come back to me, and I'll let them go, in your dreams. Galen slammed the phone down abruptly. I'd rather lose everything than let my sister jump back into that fire pit. He tightly grasped Trista's hand. Sis, trust me, I'll definitely find a way to deal with Justin. With that, he rushed out the door. However, in the following days, Justin's suppression intensified, and Galen's company found itself in even more dire straits. Looking at her brother's increasingly haggard appearance, Trista suddenly found everything utterly ridiculous. She finally dialed Justin's number. Didn't you want me to come back to you? I agree, let my brother go, restore Fabian's reputation, and let him return to a university. Justin chuckled softly on the other end of the line. Trista, I knew you'd come back. I'll be waiting for you at home. After hanging up the phone, Trista resolutely went to the appointment. When Fabian arrived, he saw only the red-eyed Galen sitting alone in the living room. Where's Trista? Galen lifted his bloodshot eyes. His voice hoarse. My sister went to find Justin. Fabian turned around and rushed out. Galen hurriedly chased after him. Brother Jew, don't be impulsive. You can't possibly be Justin's. Before the word match could be spoken, Galen froze in place. Outside the villa stood a neat row of bodyguards in black, with a limited edition luxury car worth tens of millions parked right in the center. He widened his eyes in disbelief. Senior Jew, didn't you say you had no parents? Fabian pressed his thin lips together. Get in the car to save Trista first. I'll explain on the way. Galen hurriedly got into the car. Along the way, he finally understood that Fabian was not without support, but rather the legitimate eldest son of the top wealthy family in Hong Kong, the Donahue family. The so-called orphan status was merely a disguise for the family's trials. Under normal circumstances, Galen would have scolded him for hiding the truth so deeply, but at this moment, he had only one thought: faster, even faster, to save my sister. Trista pushed open the villa's door when Justin emerged from the kitchen, holding a lopsidedly shaped cake in his hands. The moment he saw her, Justin's eyes lit up with a blazing light. Trista, you're finally here. He put down the cake and tried to hug her, but she sidestepped to avoid him. Justin's eyes darkened. Without a word, he grabbed her wrist and forcibly pressed her down to sit on the sofa. Trista. Guess what day it is today? He gazed at her with eager anticipation. Trista always remained as cold as ice. He forcefully suppressed the bitterness in his heart and managed to force a smile. Silly, today is our 6th wedding anniversary, and you actually forgot. Only a cold silence answered him. Justin couldn't bear her gaze any longer and hurriedly picked up the candle to insert it. Trista, it's been 6 years. Have you been happy? Trista finally let out a cold laugh. Justin. Don't you find this disgusting? Justin's eyes suddenly reddened. Sophia's true face. I've seen it clearly now. Last time, I wrongly accused you. Now she will never be able to get out of bed again. And from now on, there will never be. Justin. Trista sharply interrupted, her eyes filled with mockery. Don't you understand? Compared to Sophia, the real culprit is you. These words struck like a death sentence, causing Justin to stagger backward, his eyes bloodshot. But Trista's heart-piercing words weren't finished. Even without this Sophia, there would be another. I chose to fake my death precisely to escape you completely. Let's both be dignified and stop tormenting each other. She rose to leave when a furious roar erupted behind her. Is it because you've fallen for Fabian that you're rejecting me? Trista paused mid-step, turning back with an icy glare. Even if I have, it's none of your concern. Justin clutched his chest in agony, stumbling backward as veins bulged in his clenched fists. Trista, he can't give you anything at all. Who says I can't give it? Fabian pushed the door open and strode forward, taking Trista's hand in his. His warm palm transmitted a reassuring strength. He looked up and met Justin's gaze directly, his tone calm yet carrying immense weight with every word. The Donahue family of Hong Kong City offers the entirety of Causeway Bay as a betrothal gift, seeking the hand of Ms. Trista. Trista shuddered all over, looking at him in disbelief. Fabian tightened his palm, turning toward Justin with a gaze carrying a biting chill. From now on, please keep your distance from my fiancé, Mr. Justin. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that Mr. Justin won't end up homeless. After saying this, he ignored Justin's shocked gaze, took Trista's hand, and turned to leave. By the time Justin came to his senses, the room was already empty. He finally understood that Trista had never needed him exclusively, and he had lost his Trista forever. 6 months later, the Cornell family's corporation successfully went public. Galen stood in the exchange hall, watching the constantly fluctuating stock prices on the screen, his eyes slightly burning. He turned around and tightly hugged Trista beside him. Sis, we did it. Trista gently patted his back, but her gaze involuntarily drifted toward the guest seating area. Fabian sat quietly in the corner, a slight smile curling at the corners of his lips when he met her gaze. At the celebration banquet that evening, Galen, slightly intoxicated, kept pulling Fabian aside to express his gratitude. If it weren't for the last-minute capital injection from the Donahue family, the Cornell family would have struggled to withstand Justin's relentless pressure. Senior, when are you going to marry my sister? Galen asked drunkenly, his voice just loud enough for the surrounding guests to hear. The banquet hall instantly fell silent. Under the gaze of everyone, Fabian calmly stood up and took a velvet box from his pocket. He knelt on one knee in front of Trista, opened the box, revealing a simply designed yet dazzling diamond ring inside. Trista, I once said I would offer the entire Causeway Bay as a betrothal gift. Now, I want to ask you, are you willing to accept this betrothal gift and become the mistress of the Donahue family? Trista looked at the starlight reflected in his eyes, remembering his silent guardianship over the past 6 months. He respected every decision she made, supported all her choices, never acted as her benefactor, yet was always the first to appear when she needed him. Those emotions frozen by Justin were gradually being melted away by him. She slowly extended her hand, the corners of her lips curling into her first genuine smile in nearly a year. Okay, Fabian carefully slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood up and pulled her into an embrace. The entire venue erupted into warm applause. Meanwhile, at the Hubbery family group's penthouse office, Justin stared at the live proposal broadcast on his computer screen, his gaze terrifyingly sinister. Over the past 6 months, he had used every means to suppress the Cornell family, but unexpectedly, the Donahue family's strength far exceeded his imagination, instead causing heavy losses to the Hubbery family. President, the board of directors demands your immediate presence at an emergency meeting, the secretary reported, trembling with fear. Justin, furious, smashed his computer violently onto the ground. The next day, shocking news came from the business world. Justin was removed from his position as president by the board of directors, and the Hubbery family's group stock price plummeted. Meanwhile, a photo of Fabian and Trista attending the press conference together took over the headlines of all financial sections. Galen pushed open the office door and placed a newspaper in front of Trista. "Sis, look, in the headline photo, she and Fabian are holding hands, fingers intertwined." The caption reads, "Marriage between the Donahue family of Harbor City and the Cornell family may reshape the business landscape." Trista gently traced Fabian's profile in the newspaper, then looked up toward the window. The sunlight was just right, spilling over the newly built Cornell Group Tower, and spilling over her heart. Finally set free. The end.